Springer, right?
And we're off and running here on a Thursday. The college football weekend begins in a couple of hours. We're pretty fired up about it. Let's get going right now here on this Thursday afternoon. Let's share with you what's making the rounds, and Ed Ogeron making the rounds. Michael Divinity not eligible until the national championship game. You got to give the Tigers credit. They're already scheduled that. That's already on the schedule. Yeah, we're playing the national championship game. We just have to get there first. Meanwhile, in South Carolina, if the day ends in a Y, it means the president has a new statement to make. Robert Caslen, retired three-star general, is backing Will Muschamp. He said he erred in the buyout talks. Okay. Nothing to see there. Hey. Sorry, Will. We were just calling Florida State to see about a game one day, and the conversation inadvertently turned to buyout. But you're good, in spite of the 4-8 record you will very likely have after Clemson comes into our stadium and runs you guys over like everybody else has. Anyway, welcome to the program. The guest list here is Tony Barnhart. He is Mr. College Football. Is there a Mrs. College Football? That's Laura Rutledge, okay. Danny Sheridan. We just call him the Wizard of Odds. And Matt Berry. Don't know what his name is, but he'll be on later. So we got a lot to do today, and we always invite you to give us a call right here at 855-242-7285. Great to be back in the South, by the way. I mean, I've about had enough of the Northeast. Let's check out Ron to start us off in Kentucky. Hey, Ron, good afternoon. Ron, you there?
I'm here.
Okay, great to have you on, Ron. Good afternoon.
Thank you. We're glad that you're back in the South.
Thank you very much. I'm never leaving again.
How long were you in New York?
Just 3 nights.
I see.
3 nights, bordering on the rest of my life.
I'm glad that was not a permanent thing.
Yeah, no, it's just a weekly thing right now, but I will be cured of it here in a couple of weeks.
Good. This is not much on Kentucky, Paul, but looking throughout the SEC, and injuries fit into all this kind of stuff, what are your 2 or 3 biggest surprises so far in the season in the Southeastern Conference?
Well, I think you'd have to say the biggest surprise is not that LSU did well, but that LSU did as well as they did.
Yes.
I thought they would be perhaps a 10-2 team, maybe a little better, maybe 11-1, but I just didn't think they would be as effective and dominant offensively. Other surprises. Florida, to me,
yes,
did better than I thought. I thought the schedule was going to be too challenging. I thought games like Missouri and a couple other games would maybe get them. I'm just downright shocked at how bad South Carolina has been. Vanderbilt, you're never surprised that they lose, but I'm surprised to the degree that they have lost. They have not really been competitive other than that one game against Missouri. Missouri is a total shock. I thought they would be competitive, maybe vie for the SEC East at least, in some way. Been a little disappointed in Kentucky, to be honest with you, Ron. I thought they would do better. Again, quarterback situation is problematic.
And not only the quarterback, but the backup quarterback too.
Yeah, no, I mean, sometimes you just can't factor in all those things.
That's right. Well, it's your listenership is divided into a lot of different camps, and some of them are just at the peak of health, and others like me are not that situation. But for those of us who are confined an awful lot, your show is really a wonderful outlet.
Well, I tell you what, I don't think you I don't think you understand how important that is to all of us here. That means a great deal because sometimes you understand, Ron. You do this job, and we all love being here, but you probably don't hear that as much as you would like. So that means a great deal. Thank you so much.
Well, I mean that sincerely, and in the year 2000, I went through a year-long battle with depression. I slept about 4 hours a night for a year, lost 30 pounds, and considered had suicidal thoughts and all that kind of stuff, and went to doctors and psychiatrists and all kinds of medication. And I was talking to a good friend, and she said, "How long has it been since you've been out in the sunlight?" And I said, "Well, I've been locked in the house for 3 days." And she said, "Ron, go outside in the sun. There's something therapeutic about the sun." And that one suggestion, Paul, helped me more than all the medical advice, all the medication, everything else. And I just looked at the sun, thought about how lucky I was to be alive and that kind of thing. And I've never gone back in that direction, thankfully. So I'm really glad. But your show is a wonderful outlet for people like me.
Ron, I appreciate you telling that story. And I say that for a lot of reasons, but I think mainly because I think others can learn by what you just said. Because, listen, we all, doesn't matter who we are, whether we sit behind a desk or sit behind a microphone every day, a lot of ups and downs in life, a lot of disappointments. And sometimes it doesn't take much to either send us down the road or maybe lift us up. And I think you lifted a lot of people up with just a positive suggestion there.
Well, just walk out into the sunlight and realize how fortunate you are.
You're right about that.
Thank you, Paul.
Ron, thank you. All the best to you, my friend.
All right.
Really interesting call. Bruce. I am going to live. I know some of you are disappointed to hear that. Bruce is up next in Memphis. Hey, Bruce.
How are you today, sir?
Oh, wonderful to hear from you.
I really appreciate your show. I got 2 things on my mind about Tua and Alabama.
Okay.
Number one, the worst thought I've ever had is that those 2 big men from Mississippi State really hurt Tua, and I'm not 100% sure that it wasn't on purpose.
Bruce, I'm going to give you just an opinion because I'm not anything more than an opinionist, but I don't believe those 2 guys were doing anything other than what their jobs entail. Their jobs entail try to get through the line and tackle the quarterback.
Yeah, I understand that, but I don't think it takes 2 big guys to tackle Tua.
That's Bruce. That's football. You just don't say, hey, you get him. I'll just sit back here and watch. Hey, listen, thanks for the suggestion. I really
is that I would.
Hey, thanks for the call. We'll take a short break. We're back after this. Much more to come. So we are back, and guys, Thursday's usually tailgate day, right?
But like the rest of the SEC, Paul, we're going to take the weekend off. Watch a little Disney Plus back here, hang out.
Yep.
Just enjoy it. You know, we thought about tailgating in Athens and maybe go see SEC Nation, but 100% chance of rain.
Oh, really?
That's not good.
You know what? I'm not feeling very well.
Yeah, well, you don't sound very well.
Might be the weekend to skip.
So
yeah, no November rain here.
Yeah, no, we're just going to sit back, Disney Plus on there.
Post up on the couch.
Why not? It's going to be a good
classic
weekend.
Disney.
I mean, Paul, don't get me wrong. I can't wait to see UT Martin, Kentucky. Really battle that one out.
Now, Mark, I wouldn't advise you trashing the games we have on this network.
I'm not. I'm just saying.
Right.
I can sit at home and watch these on ESPN Plus.
What do we have this weekend?
We also have Samford Auburn.
Ooh.
And the best of them all, number 5 ranked Alabama, really need to show what they can do with Mac Jones at quarterback, taking on Western Carolina. And the total
that game's on ESPN, isn't it?
Total enrollment of 2,200.
Philpott on the call.
That's not on the SEC network.
3-8, Western Carolina.
Why are you such a hater, Mark?
Because they don't need to be having these games. Everybody wants to see what Alabama can do right now.
Right.
They have a new quarterback, even with Tua. But I mean, now they have Mac Jones coming in, and it's just you have
you know
one
what
game
I would
to
do?
prove
I
it.
would not even. I wouldn't risk Mac Jones against Western Carolina.
You might. Why would you?
I would save him for Auburn.
We don't want to show too much Mac Jones. You know, we'll let the committee judge.
But
on what
if
Mac
Mac
Jones
Jones
does
gets
against
hurt,
Auburn. Yeah,
we're back to.
then you're down to
We're
Talia.
back to.
Then you're at Tagovailoa.
Tagovailoa, yeah.
Tagovailoa 2.0. But on the plus side, during
Wouldn't that
all
be
these
amazing
games, you
if,
can log on to
if,
Disney Plus.
If Tua's brother came in and saved the season.
Yeah. It would be a movie featured on Disney
be,
Plus immediately, I'm sure.
You got it. You guys are really into Disney Plus.
Really, it's going to be a great weekend. I mean, listen, when your conference is playing stinkers, at least you can do is
talk to Commissioner
turn
Sankey about
on
that,
Disney
Mark.
Plus.
Yeah.
Get the bundle.
Okay.
DisneyPlus.com.
Haven't heard that much spinning since I was out in the other room. Greg is up next. Hey, Greg, always good to have you on. Thank you. Hey, Greg. Give us a couple of seconds, make sure the phones are working. Greg, can you hear me? Greg? Yeah, okay. Let's try Tim next. Hey, Tim. Maybe
Hey, Mr. Paul.
Hey there, Tim. Go right ahead.
How do you feel about Nick Saban hurting Tua, like with his game time decision?
I'm not sure I understand your question there, Tim.
Like, he cost him the NFL, and he needs to pay him every damn team.
Listen, I don't mind having a free flow of conversation here. That's what the show's all about. But when somebody calls up with a purposely inflammatory take that's based not in one iota of truth, I just feel like maybe we ought to move on to another caller. Blake is in Atlanta. Hey, Blake, go right ahead.
Hey, Paul. How you doing today, buddy?
I am well. Thank you for the call.
Hey, no problem, man. I've talked to you a couple weeks back. If you don't remember, I was telling you, my wife's disease, and the disease was winning, and, and she hadn't been home too much from the hospital too late, But your show every day at 3 o'clock, it's on for her. And I had to call in after hearing Ron from Kentucky. And your show is her escape, and, hearing some of the calls that you have to deal with and everything like that, just want to show your appreciation
Well, Blake,
for
thank you.
everything you do.
So is she home now, or is she in the hospital?
She is actually home now.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
She's been home for 2 weeks, and when I get home in the evening, I get an update on what happened for the day. Here you had a fun Monday.
Yeah, we did.
with Mr. Darryl.
Most people enjoyed the college weekend and talked about it, and we had one who just
idiot, just idiot. That's uncalled for. That kid has done nothing. Tua's done nothing but be great for the sport, and that's just uncalled for. Like I said, we're diehard Gator fans, but that's a kid's future, and what he's done for this game is just amazing. But just once again, Paul, thank you for everything you do.
I tell you what, Blake, I want to thank you as well, because I really get emotional when I hear stories like yours, because I don't want to pretend to know I can relate to what you are going through. I can't.
Right.
But I think I know enough to understand the joy that you and your family has when when things are looking up a little bit, and for the time together. So please continue to call, and all the best wishes to your wife.
We'll do that. And like I said, she's got this funny thing she does. She gets jealous when I get through to the show. She'll say, I call so many times I can't get through. She goes, I got a method. I'll call 20 times, and after the 20th time on hold, I'm done for the day.
Well,
but anyway, Paul, thank you for everything, buddy.
Blake, thank you again, and I really look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks so much. All the best, my friend. Mike is up next. Mike is in Houston. Mike, go right ahead.
Paul, first, I'd like to thank you for dropping Tim's call. Second, regarding your segment the other day with Tim Brando and this notion that there is some sort of brand bias, you know, the inherent idea behind that is that a team gets in simply because of who they are and they are not deserving of getting into the playoffs. And I don't know that that's actually occurred for the ones that he accuses brand bias of benefiting: Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, etc. Now, I think there is one team that probably benefited from it, and that was Notre Dame, and we know what happened to him. But he was also advocating for teams like Oregon and Utah to have a great shot at it, and, you know, they may or may not. But regardless, what happened when Washington got in? What happened when Michigan State got in? And the reality is these teams that are perennially in the playoff deserve to be there, and they prove it in their play. So I'm wondering where the big flaw is right now in seeing these teams in the playoff year after year.
Yeah, listen, Tim has been around the game a long time, but you know, I mean, you can say whatever you want about Alabama, but you know, they're still one of the 4 or 5 best teams in the country.
Sure, and I like Tim Brando. You know, he does a great job of provoking thought and throwing a few bombs here and there. But, you know, I agree that the college football playoff isn't ideal. There's definitely room for improvement. And, you know, we've talked in the past, modeling college football after the English Premier League would be the best way to go.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting scenario, Mike. I'm going to say this, and I brought this up on the College Football Top 25 show a week ago and heard a lot of criticism from the West Coast. And that was when I just raised the issue of Rob Mullins, the committee chairman, perhaps being in the middle of Oregon's quest to get into the college football playoff. George Schroeder wrote a column about it today. And I frankly don't know if I trust this guy being in charge. I don't trust him because he's not honest. And I just think he has an influence on that committee. And maybe I should save my powder if Oregon gets in, but then it's going to be too late. Let's get back to the calls. And Jim is up next in Augusta, Georgia. Hey, Jim, you're on the air. Go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Paul, for taking my call. It's the first time I've called. I'm a football fan, but I'm a great fan of how you treat the game, and your insight is fantastic.
Thank you.
And I agree with all these other callers about all the reasons why you're good. Here's where I'm coming from. It's time. It's time to have a playoff that means something. We got 60 teams that made bowls last year at the top level. Take the top 16 and let's do a playoff like they do in the other divisions. Start the second weekend in December, have 8 games and 8 eliminations. There's plenty of time to carry it out to the second week in January, which they do already. And I think it would be a win for everybody. I think it would be a win for all the colleges, the officials, the administration, and most of all the fans and you media people. This would be a lot more to do, and let these other teams have a shot, like the West Coast teams. Put Boise State in or somebody like that from the outside. I just think it would be very good for football, and the sooner we do it, the better all of this is going to be for us.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, Jim. And listen, I hate to paint a broad brush because there are a lot of really good people involved in leadership in college athletics, but sometimes when they get together, they just think in such an antediluvian fashion. And the world today is about being global and ahead of the curve. I mean, I'm certainly not of the when I hear things, I try to shake my head because it sounds so foreign to me. But I also realize that young people don't think the same way I do, and if you don't change, you are going to be left behind. And I'm afraid this model is going to get left behind very quickly.
You talk about the top 4 only making it.
Yeah, and listen, Bill Hancock was on this program yesterday, and he basically, I don't want to come down on the guy because he's a genuinely nice guy. He's just defending the indefensible. That's his issue. I mean, if you put me out there as a PR man and I didn't believe in what I was saying, and I don't think he really believes in it. He just it's just the same song, different verse every week for him. But he's got a good job, and he wants to keep it. Richard is in the ATL. Hey, Richard, you're on the air.
Good afternoon, sir. So fine to talk to you, Mr. Finebaum.
Thank you.
Two things. One is Darrell doesn't speak for anybody in the University of Georgia Nation, and I think the way you handled him was dead on. Secondly, the gentleman that called in this afternoon and wanted to start talking about Saban. I'm a UGA fan. My daughter's about to be national champion with UGA, and I would like nothing better than to beat Alabama. But Tua is a one-in-a-generation type player and person, and watching him go down wounded college football. And there was nothing that coach could have done to predict it. Everybody knows that he had an ankle issue. Well, he got his hip injured, which had nothing to do with the ankle injury. So everybody needs to just shut up and really be praying for Tua to just get better.
Yeah, and I think some people confuse the reaction for. I mean, it is not about a football team. It is not about anything other than what you just got through describing. I have never seen a quarterback like him. I mean, it's special, and I'm not sure we truly appreciate something until it's gone.
I agree, and trust me, he broke my heart 2 years ago. But he was a phenomenal player, and still is a phenomenal guy. And I pray that he gets back and gets to the NFL. My only other comment, Paul, is on the playoffs.
Yes.
I think it's a scam, not a scam, but I think it's a sham when Jim comes on and goes, "Oh, well, I recuse myself." It's not like you're not going to come back.
No,
and everybody in that room knows you're coming back, so they're going to have to defend.
Well,
I mean,
listen,
it's ridiculous.
Richard, you can't be chairman of a committee and walk outside for 20 minutes and come back and still not be in charge.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
And everybody know it. Everybody in that room.
You know what?
is influenced
I
by you doing that.
I would rather them not recuse themselves. I mean, if you're good enough and thought enough to be on a committee, sit there and talk about your own school. So what?
Well, you know how they defend the 4-team playoffs because they want to protect the bowl games, and I think it's had the exact opposite effect because how many players have opted out of playing in a bowl game because it didn't matter because the playoffs are only 4 teams.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned the other day the same thing, Richard, and I got a note from one of my bosses here who happens to be involved in that part in the bowl part of ESPN, and he said, "What are you saying?" And what I'm saying is the truth. The bowl, most of the bowl games are just pure TV shows, and there's nothing wrong with it. By the way, when Christmas week comes, between Christmas and New Year's, most people are home with not a lot to do other than watch football, which we all enjoy. So let's just call it what they are. There was a bowl game yesterday that lost its sponsorship. Why? Because some of these things aren't worth spending money on, are they?
Correct. Especially when your top players opt out because it doesn't matter anymore. So it's had the exact opposite effect.
Yeah, I get so fed up with people in my industry and where I work trying to tell me how important these games are for the community. I've lived in several cities that have bowl games, and they may have been important at one time, but but they're not important anymore.
Right.
I mean, if you live in a major metropolitan area that has professional football and basketball, and a mid-level bowl game, you think it really matters? Yeah,
Not
I mean,
at all.
listen,
Not at all.
there's cities in this country where a bowl game is really important, and I've been to those bowl games where the whole community gets involved. But most of them, Miami, Phoenix, places like that, they have two or three bowl games a year. The New Year's Six game may matter, but bowl attendance has been down. It's a cottage industry. And by the way, it's a good industry. It's not like we got a bunch of crooks in there stealing money from you. It's a great place to take your kids and to support the community. I'm not waging war against the bowls, but they are in trouble. And they're in trouble because of the college football playoff. It has sucked the conversation away. I mean, I used to be a newspaper columnist, and this time of the year, I mean, we would write a column every week. Who's going where? I mean, it was exciting. People genuinely had fun trying to speculate. You don't see that anymore. I mean, you may see it, but everyone knows the only three games that matter are the two playoff games and the national championship game. I can hear my phone blowing up already. We'll take a short break. This program will be back. The only question, will I be sitting there? Time for Upset Alert on this Thursday afternoon, is that right? Okay, let's get going.
Thursday afternoon, Upset Alert, Paul. There are some good games out there, so let's find out what they are. Penn State at Ohio State. Ohio State, an 18-point favorite. The Buckeyes on Upset Alert.
This is a good game.
Top 10 matchup.
But?
Not hitting the horn.
You hitting the horn, Brams?
Not hitting the horn. Ohio State looks too good.
Yeah,
I don't think they're on Upset Alert. Sorry, John.
Yeah, sorry, everybody. That's not happening. How about UCLA versus USC? USC, a 14-point favorite, are the Trojans, who somehow can still make it to the Pac-12 championship
I'm hitting the
game
horn just for fun.
All right, hit the horn.
There's actually a huge game for SEC fortunes and Alabama fortunes, right? If you're a Bama fan, you want USC to lose, make the Pac-12's
You're right.
losses look worse, et cetera, et cetera.
All right.
True.
All right, the horn is
Go
hit.
Bruins.
How about this one? TCU at Oklahoma. Oklahoma, an 18-point favorite. Are we hitting the horn?
I mean, I woke up hitting the frog horn.
Hit
on
the
this
horn
one.
just for Danny Brams. Let's go. TCU.
One time,
Isn't this the
Max
whole thing,
Duggan,
right?
Yeah.
You never know. Oklahoma hasn't looked good in the last 4 weeks.
Frogs have beaten them before.
Michigan at Indiana. Michigan, a 9.5-point favorite. Indiana.
The big game.
Right. Indiana's been looking good.
This game could be close.
I'm hitting that horn.
Hit
the horn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Everybody hit the horn
in
on
Bloomington,
this.
let's go.
Right? This Indiana team looked good against Penn State.
That would be just so much like Harbaugh.
That would be the biggest Michigan thing ever.
They're rounding it a
A&M.
They're hitting their stride.
At Georgia. A&M looking a little bit better. Georgia.
Hit the horn.
Wow.
Wow.
I didn't even give you the points.
Trap
13.5. It's rainy. This plays into Georgia, though.
I'm just talking about the spread. I'm not talking about winning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still.
Jimbo would love to get this win, I think.
All right, these are the big ones for everybody here. This is the Pac-12 version of Upset Alert. Oregon.
Just hit the horn.
Okay, Oregon and Arizona State hit the horn. They're on Upset
Play
Alert.
to win the games. Let's go. Hello.
Herm Edwards, do us all a favor and get rid of Oregon.
Is this to win the game? We're not talking spreads, points, or anything, Paul.
Right.
Is this?
You play to win the game.
Last one here. Utah at Arizona.
I'm not hitting a horn.
Yeah.
I don't trust Kevin Sumlin.
That's fair.
I mean, in football,
Okay.
I would trust him with anything else. Just want to say that for the record. No quid pro quo with Kevin Sumlin. 855-242-7285. Let's get back to the calls. And Jim is in Seattle. Hello, Jim.
Mr. Finebaum, I hope you're feeling well.
Thank you.
I am an old coach. As a matter of fact, I've coached football for 30 years.
Woo.
I hadn't planned on talking about item number one, but it's interesting how many people live vicariously through bowl games. And they say, what do the games mean? Well, if you play D2 or if you play D3, there are how many kids, I cannot tell you, who love every minute and how important every game means to them. These people see only the number one, number two games, the Rose, and then the final, national championship. But I think it's interesting. These people should go out and support some of their small college community athletics. It's a big thing, and I can't tell you how much it means to the kids, whether it be 8 years old or 18 years old or even 28 years old. But that's not the reason I called. I called because I'm not so much a team rooter as I root for coaches. And one of the coaches, if not the coach that I root for, is Coach O. I think it's interesting. I can only wonder what the brass at USC have to say right now as they consider Clay Helton's scenario while they're trying to decide what they want. They could have had Coach O. They could have had Coach O for a song. And now I wonder how many of them are kicking themselves for not seeing the wealth and the jewel that they had.
You know something, though, Jim, and I think we're all fans of Coach O, but I remember being on that campus in 2013. I was part of the college game day crew, and there was a tug of war about whether he should remain or not. They played Stanford that night. They turned out they ended up winning the game. It was like a mid-November game, and then he lost another game after that I think really set him back. And they're just it was just you even though the players liked him, it wasn't a clear call to go for him. And listen, it turned out that they brought back Steve Sarkisian, who was successful at UW, as you know, and he turned out to be a flaming disaster.
You brought up a huge point, and that is the players liked Coach O.
They did.
They liked him then, and when you talk to your athletics and you talk to your athletes, they can paint a picture far better than perhaps the alumni who only see, well, this guy was 11-0 at a semi-major school, and so we want to go after him. No offense to the top-notch coaches, because they're top-notch for a reason. But Coach O was well-liked, and they overlooked him. I felt that
but Coach, let me offer this. I have seen situations where players have gotten behind someone who, quite frankly, shouldn't be the coach, and you know that. You've seen it too.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, it's a it's a tough call, and Pat Hayden, made a couple of disastrous decisions, and he paid for it.
Cannot agree with you more, and I think that Coach O is making them pay for it.
Yeah, but I'll tell you one thing, though, Jim.
Right now. So hats off.
You live on the West Coast.
I am less of an LSU rooter, but nothing would please me more than to see Coach O win it all, and then his players and the joys, just like the joy of when these when these people call you and say all these other bowl games don't mean a thing. I couldn't agree more, or disagree more, rather.
No, I understand.
There are kids, whether it be Ohio University or Central Michigan or Montana State, who are thrilled to go to a bowl game, and it means the world. And it means the world to that little community. They're never going to get in ever to the Rose Bowl, but that doesn't mean a thing anyhow. These young men and women are in it for the joy of the game. And that brings me to my third point, and then I won't tie you up anymore. I hope that all of these people out there listening think about becoming an athletic coach of some sort, whether it be an 8-year-old girls soccer team or a 10-year-old boys baseball team or a 15-year-old JV water polo team or an 18-year-old varsity football. The joy is in the game. The joy is in the sport. The joy is working with our young men and women, our children. And I've done it, as I say, for over 30 years. And if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you very, very much. And I realized how much money was in coaching, Randy. We should have gotten in there. Sure. Man. But I'll say a final note to what Jim said. Ed Ogeron could have very easily been the SC coach, but I don't think he would have been happy there. He is happy every waking moment in Baton Rouge. That's where he's from. Those are his people. And you talk about joy. There's already been a lot of joy. We saw it last week. Can you imagine? He has an SEC title in a national championship. Ed Ogeron will have a lifetime contract. It would have never been that way in Southern Cal. We'll take a break. More to come. Speaking about lifetime contract, probably something I'll never have.